Hello YouTube, Denise again from Dueling Bunnies, and this is going to be part 2 of our Darkworld 101 video series. Yesterday, if you did not get to watch it, you will see a link or an annotation sending you to that video, but yesterday we talked about the basics of Darkworlds, what they are, how they work, and the difference, and how their effects work, and we talked about the difference between discarding, sending, discarding to the graveyard, sending to the graveyard, and discarding by a cost. So please make sure you check out that video before you come into this one, so that you're not lost in any way, shape, or form, and that you understand the basics of Dark Worlds. So this is going to be part 2, and this is where we're going to be talking about strategy. Dark Worlds have a very unique way in how they work. Now, we know that most decks are split into many different genres or variants, as you could say. We have very aggressive decks, we have very defensive decks, and we have decks that fall right in between. Now, Dark Worlds, in essence, are an aggressive deck. We can read here in the basic strategy. I will put the link down on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia with Dark Worlds. We can read here that Dark Worlds rapidly and aggressively storm the field and overwhelm the opponent by destroying and discarding your opponent's cards and using its main buster, Grapha, obviously, who has a built-in destruction effect and an infinite capacity to special summon itself from the graveyard. Now, we all know that Grapha in itself is a very broken card. We read Grapha yesterday. We read the effect of how you can special summon it from the graveyard by returning a Dark World monster from the field to hand. So you're always recycling your Dark World monsters, and it's really easy to bring out, not very hard whatsoever. Also, Grapha has a pretty nice effect that when it is discarded to the graveyard by your card effect, you get to destroy a card. And if it just so happened that your opponent discarded Grapha by card effect, you get both effects. Not only do you get to pop a card, but you do get to look at one random card in your opponent's hand. If that card is a monster, you get to special summon it to your side of the field. Pretty great. So we know that a lot of these Dark World monsters have built-in effects as soon as they're discarded into the graveyard, and many have secondary effects. We read Grapha yesterday, and we've read that they both have, that Grapha has 2 effects. We can continue seeing that in the Gates of the Underworld structure deck number 21, this deck has picked up a little bit more speed in summoning and getting card effects. Now, it is still lacking a lot. It's gained some support. Definitely the Dark World archetype has gained a lot of support with the new release of Grapha. Definitely a step up from what we know Dark Worlds have been. But I don't think it's on par yet. I think that there's a lot of support missing for Dark Worlds, especially in spells and traps. I think that we need a lot better discard outlets that work with Dark Worlds that are not considered to be costs in order to get the deck to be running a lot smoother. Now, obviously, Grapha being in the structure deck, it's more of a power and destruction type of card, whereas Snow allows for quick searches for any card. Now, we know that Snow is really important in Dark Worlds. Not only it acts, if you know Gravekeepers, it acts as your recruiter, but not only that, it's actually taken a step further. It can search any card. It can search a spell that has Dark World in it, a trap that has Dark World in it, if there is. So you can search out any card that is a Dark World card. Snow is very, very important, and you also get that in the structure deck. So if we look really at the structure deck, it is a good buy. But is it on par with most decks out there? I don't know yet, and we're going to talk about that soon. We also get a another card. This is another interesting card. And this is a lot of this card has led to a lot of debate in whether to run it in Dark Worlds or not, and we're going to talk about Celery, Guru of the Dark World. Now, I'm going to open this up and we're going to read his effect because he's kind of interesting. He's a level 1, 100 attack, 300 defense. He has a trigger effect, and we're going to see what that effect is right now. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, special summon this card from the graveyard to your opponent's side of the field in face-up defense position. When this card is special summoned by the effect of a Dark World card, your opponent must discard 1 card. Now, in essence, the secondary effect of your opponent must discard one card is a good effect. But a lot of Darkworld players have been asking themselves, do I really want to give my opponent a card on the field? Now, we do know that it is 300 defense, so it's not really high defense. It's easy for your monster to get over it, but why? Why give your opponent a field advantage? So, this card has led to a lot of debate, and honestly, it could lead to it's a very inconsistent card, and it could often lead to dead hands. Often, when you have two celery, it's just a very crappy card, I guess you could say. I mean, you really have to pull it off in a decent build to be able to use celery well. I personally do not recommend running this card. But now we're going to talk about Gold and Silver, which were one of the two most famous cards before Grapha came out in Dark Worlds. And it says here on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikia, with the release of Grapha, the deck no longer needs to rely on Gold and Silva for muscle power, and that's very true. Because Grapha is a pretty decent beat stick in comparison with Gold and Silva. They're obviously great beat sticks as well, but Grapha, is a big powerhouse. Gold and Silva as well. Um, the thing with Gold and Silva, though, since they have very high levels, sometimes we might find Dark World players not very neat, not relying so much on them and just holding them in hand. Now I've done this a lot. Playtesting with a Dark World deck that I had previously built on Dueling Network. That I had Grapha, and I liked using Grapha more than Gold or Silva. I just held them in hand more and more and more and more because I was depending on Grapha. So that leads me into another thing. Is Gold and Silva worth running in a Dark World deck? Depends. It really depends if you are wanting to run a very high beat stick deck. I personally keep them out. I don't run a Gold or Silva in the Dark World deck that I'm currently building at the moment because Graph is what I really want to center my focus on. My goal, or in my personal opinion, any Dark World player's goal should be to bring out Graph as fast as possible or get it into the graveyard as fast as possible. Grapha, definitely is a very, very good card. And if you have a proper field to defend it, it's infinite loops that you can do with this card. Um, another card that that we see most Dark World players starting to put in is Brawn. Brawn, I think, has been around more. And what I like about Brawn is that, we'll read his effect right now. You guys can see this. So not get so you know who I'm talking about. This is Brawn. His effect is that when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can discard one card. I like it. It adds another discard outlet. If you're out of discard outlets at the moment in time, Brawn would be a good alternative. Attack first with all the other monsters that you have, and use him for last. Attack for 1800. Not so, it's not too much, but 1800 is not too bad. And with the field spell card, you get a little boost there. And you get to discard a card, so you have another opportunity to kind of go off with your plays. And next we have Beige. Now I like Beige a lot. I like Beige a lot, honestly. Now the way I see it is like this. You read this effect, it says if this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, special summon it from the graveyard. Now you're like, okay, well, it's good, you have field presence, but what's the big deal? Now, the way I see it is, this is a perfect card to return to hand for Grapha. You discard it. Grapha and Beige go to the graveyard. You get to pop a card with Grapha, and you get to special summon Beige. Return Beige to the hand, bring Grapha, special summon Grapha. That easy. It's that easy. And you have yet to special summon. Normal summon, sorry. So, Beige, I like to use Beige a lot. I think that Beige is great for bringing Grapha back from the grave. And if you discard him again, hey, you have field presence. 1600 beater, not too high, but with again, the field spell, you get a little boost there. It's not too bad of a card. Highly recommend running it. I think it's great, great, great for bringing out Grapha. Next, we're going to talk about discard effects. This is where things can get a little confusing. This is very important, and I highly recommend that you actually read over this. It's called the discard effects, and this exact section helped me a lot in building my in building what I'm now building of a Darkworld deck, because it definitely showed me what are good cards and what are bad cards, and it kind of cleared up the effects to me a little bit better. Now, if you read it, it says this section will show exactly which effects are activated with any Darkworld monster's discard. This also shows exactly what happens when the opponent's effect is the cause for the discard. So this is really important, you guys. Beige. We just went over beige. If he's discarded, he gets a special summon. Discarded by either player effect. So if it was your effect that discarded the monster, beige, you get to special summon this card. Now, if it was your opponent who made you discard, you do not get to special summon. So that's really important. Something to keep in mind, guys. Brow. Discarded by either player's effect, you get to draw a card. Discarded by opponent's effect, you get to draw a second card in addition to the other. Really important to know. We'll skip over Cerulli. Again, we talked about Grapha. If it's sent to the graveyard by your card effect, target one opponent's card. By your card effect, you get to target one opponent's card, and if it was by your opponent's card effect, you look at a single card in your opponent's hand. If it's a monster, you can special summon it. We're going to talk about Snow. Discarded by your card effect, add one Darkworld card from your deck to hand. Discarded by an opponent's card effect, target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon, and face up defense. So it's really important that you guys look over this small little chart. It just kind of clears things up about the monsters and what effects they will get. Very, very important. I highly, highly recommend that you use this in building your deck. It's a great molding structure, and it kind of clears up any confusion that you might have, because some of these cards have very long effects. We just read, we read Graph in the previous video. He had a pretty long effect. It could get confusing, so this will clear up any confusion you might have. In part 3, we're going to talk about other discard methods. That's going to be tomorrow, because I definitely am getting very, very sleepy. I'm sorry if this video wasn't as good as the last one, but definitely part 3 would be much, much better. But really what I wanted to get in today was more so this chart. It's very important that you guys read it, because I know it will clear a lot of confusion for you, and will help you pick out what monsters you think will be best to run in your deck. Isn't that what we all have been having a problem with? Figuring out what monsters we want to run. Make sure you check out the chart. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know in the comment section below. If you want to add something, please feel free to comment. Check out our forums, duelingbunnies.forummotion.com. Thank you for watching the video, and be looking out for part 3, where we're going to talk about this next section, other discard methods, and we're going to talk about a lot of other cards that you can use to discard your Dark Worlds. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.